From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell. Well, some folks are on edge with the outbreak of hantavirus on a Dutch cruise ship that flared up last month, and with passengers departing and returning home before the full extent of the outbreak was known, others have become exposed to it. As it does with most events, the weather may have had an influence on this outbreak. Now, periods of heavy rain can help fuel rodent populations, which may increase the chance of human exposure to hantavirus in some areas. Health officials stress that the risk to the general public remains very low. Hantaviruses are carried by rodents and can be spread to people through contact with infectant rodent urine, droppings, or saliva. People can also become infected after breathing in contaminated particles stirred up from nesting materials or droppings, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Infection through rodent bites or scratches is possible, but rare. Now, here in the U.S., hantavirus infections are often tied to people cleaning enclosed spaces where rodents have been active, including cabins, sheds, garages, and other buildings that may have been closed for weeks or months. Weather can influence rodent habitat, the food supply, and activity, which can affect potential exposure risk. A CDC Emerging Infectious Diseases study found that environmental factors, including a dramatic increase in precipitation tied to the 1992-93 El Niño, may have directly increased virus exposure risk by influencing rodent habitat and populations in the West and the Four Corners region. AccuWeather meteorologists are forecasting a 30% chance of a super El Niño to develop by the end of the Atlantic hurricane season. The climate pattern, known as El Niño, can influence rainfall and hurricanes along the Pacific coast, leading to increased moisture from the southern plains to the east coast during summer and fall. Now, spring and early summer can be a good time to be aware of risk, especially in rural areas, mountain communities, campgrounds, and seasonal homes. Above normal precipitation can boost vegetation and food sources for deer mice, and people may encounter signs of rodent activity when reopening cabins or sheds, garages, campsites, or vacation homes after winter. The renewed attention comes as health officials monitor a hantavirus cluster linked to the MV Hondius cruise ship. The World Health Organization said 7 cases, including 2 laboratory-confirmed cases and 3 deaths, have been identified as of May 4th. Recent reports said additional passengers evacuated from the ship, including an American and a French woman, tested positive for hantavirus. Now, that outbreak involves Andes virus, a type of hantavirus found in parts of South America. Unlike most hantaviruses, Andes virus can rarely spread from person to person through close contact with someone who is sick. And that, again, is according to the CDC. Dr. Brian Christine, a DHHS Assistant Secretary for Health, said that the risk of hantavirus to the general public remains very, very low. Hantavirus remains rare in the U.S. As of the end of 2023, 890 laboratory-confirmed cases had been reported nationwide since surveillance began 30 years prior. Health officials recommend taking precautions before cleaning spaces with signs of rodents. Open doors and windows to ventilate the area, wear rubber or plastic gloves, and avoid sweeping or vacuuming droppings or nesting materials, which can send contaminated particles into the air. The CDC advises spraying droppings and urine with a bleach solution or EPA-registered disinfectant until very wet, letting it soak, and then wiping out the material with paper towels. That's all for now. You can find regional forecasts and more science-based articles at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe. I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.